So recently I created this video about purpose in the postmodern world, and so I'm not going to repeat all of it because then it will be redundant. So what I'll do is I'll simply give a very short summary about what I spoke about in this video, and then I'll talk about certain things that I didn't cover there.
Okay.
There were certain angles that I wanted to cover, but I didn't because I hadn't done enough research at the moment. So I'll talk about this now. Okay, so the point of this was that it was about it's about meaning and purpose in the postmodern world. Or postmodern world is a very fancy term for the modern world that we're living in. So in simple terms, it's the modern world that we're living in. So this is what it is. So for most of human history, people derived their purpose and meaning in life from two main things. For initially it was religion for a long, long time, and then it was replaced by nationalism. And the main thing and the common thing between both of this was that those both of them provided something which I called grand narratives. I have mentioned it here. Actually, I haven't coined them. It was coined by Slavoj Zizek, who is another philosopher. So that's the term. So grand narratives means that there is a higher big picture purpose to life, which is larger than your own life. And it was also common among all the people in the community. So if you're a part of a religion, and later on, if you're a part of a uh, nation, so you had a common purpose, and which was definitely and repeatedly being told by whichever religion or whichever nation that you were in. So that was the way that people derived their purpose for most of human history. And but over the past, let's say 50 to 70 years, it has been replaced by postmodernism. So the whole concept of postmodern philosophy is that there is no objective truth to things. Everything can be interpreted. There can be so it's all subjective now. Everything can be interpreted. So the idea of postmodernism is very vast. It applies to different areas of life. So that's a very broad topic. So I'm just going to take the idea and talk a very specific aspect of it. Specifically how it affects people's perception of how to what's important in life. Also, I haven't
Okay.
talked about. Okay, do you want to say something?
No, no, continue.
Okay. So another thing that I didn't talk about in this video was that it's not that religion and nationalism has entirely disappeared completely and has been completely replaced by this. Those still exist, but it's changing gradually. As with all things, things changes gradually. And I think this postmodern subjective way of life applies more to the current generation. I would say late millennials onwards, I would say that's what applies. And because I think people like us, me and you, and people of our age, who are mostly secular in our worldview, we do not actually understand the gravity of how important religion and then the sense of national identity is for people of the older generation, of our parents and our parents' generation and beyond that. So those were really very important for them. And because for us, religion, we just do it for the sake of it. I would say for most people like of our age. Obviously, there exist people who definitely take it seriously, but I would say most people are just doing it because they're born into it, not because it's not about believing in the God, but to take the customs and rituals very seriously. I don't think many people in our age to do that, but people who were a generation above us, they definitely take it very seriously. And as I've said, it's not about the metaphysical understanding, like, okay, God exists, or not those kind of things. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But the customs that were there, that were very rigid, and they really seriously believed it. But people of our age are very open-minded, or like they are very fluid in this kind of things. And that actually is a result of viewing things subjectively, because there's no objective authority that governs things. So yes, that was okay. So what I've said so far is that about grand narratives, which was replaced by postmodern uh, worldview, which the defining factor is that there's no objective truth, or there is not one single thing that defines meaning. You can define your own purpose in life, or whatever gives it meaning. So the good thing is that most people are no longer forced to believe in those things. Okay, you don't have to believe in a religion. You can choose whatever you want. But the negative thing is that it also comes with a lot of burden, because there's this saying that with with great power comes great responsibility. So a similar thing also applies here, because with great freedom now also you have a great responsibility about defining your own purpose. And what has happened is that as a result, most people aren't able to do this. So they keep bouncing from one thing to another, and so on. So freedom is not free, it is very expensive. So it has come at a greater cost. And that's why in our times we are seeing a lot of a rise in issues like anxiety, depression, uncertainty, and all those kind of things. Because you're free, but you do not have the discipline to define your own direction. And that's why we, because of this directionlessness, people are suffering from this. Because I think uncertainty definitely causes all these kinds of anxiety and those kind of things. It's definitely one of the reasons. So that's one of the side effects. So what I've covered here is that Slavoj Zizek, he's a very prominent philosopher whose work was actually who summarized his work. The person who summarized this work was another YouTuber whose name is Stephen West. He also has a philosophy YouTube channel called Philosophize This. And I have basically simplified whatever he said. So what he said was that, okay, now we are in this postmodern world. People are struggling with the meaninglessness or the absence of grand narratives that give their lives meanings by default. You were born, your meaning and purpose was predefined. You didn't have to do the hard work. But now you're free, so what can you do? So there are four options. There are four ways that which people are dealing with this right now. The first one is first the people have given up hope, which is called burnout. They have simply realized that there is no meaning and purpose to anything. Like, even if I work hard, do well in my career, what's the meaning of it? In a few years, no one will remember what I've done in my work. Because for most people, work, you are not a famous musician, politician, or a sports person. So no one will remember what you've done. Maybe after 10, 20 years. So what's the point of putting in all the work anyways? So that's a very like a dark attitude towards life. So these people mostly, so the way these people cope with their life is through anesthetizing themselves through various means. The most popular like ones are like endless, like all those social media shorts, like endless scrolling is one option, binge watching, drugs, endless hours of video games, and so on. So those are the options that, in which they anesthetize themselves. Like, as long as I'm alive, I'm going to anesthetize myself and simply pass my time till I'm dead. So that's the approach. The second one is to give in to the and to fully participate in the global capitalist system. That means now that there is no purpose, as I've said, no objective purpose, you are free to choose anything. And one thing that has replaced it is I would say, the global capitalism, because now the brands and the companies, they capitalize on your like uncertainty and undecisiveness. So as you might have noticed that over the past few decades, the brands, the companies, they do not market their products in terms of in terms of their objective capacities. Like if you look at any advertisements of any product, be it a phone, car, or anything else, you won't see that they won't talk much about the how powerful the camera is or the processor is. Maybe they'll definitely talk a bit about it, or the car is. Mostly they'll sell you a lifestyle. Like, okay, if it's a car, they'll show you, depending on what kind of car it is. If it's an off-roader car, it will show you, okay, it's in an off-road environment. If it's a family car, it will show you husband, wife, two kids. Like, they'll sell you a lifestyle. And if it's a phone, depending on if it's a high camera phone, it will show you like the person is running through the wildlife, trying to take some photos, something. So instead of the features, they're trying to sell you a lifestyle. And because there is no grand narratives, like I, you might have seen in some movies or something, like people who are in a cult, they are very, I'm not like saying anything positive about cults, but people who are in a cult like situation, they are very focused. Like if you give them something, they'll say, no, 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 it's against my cult. I'm not going to do this. But people who are open-minded, like they will try anything. So uh, a less intense form of cult is like having a rigid social structure. So you directly know that if someone gives you something, no, no, this is against my culture, I won't do it. So at least you have some kind of certainty. But if you are in an postmodern world, number one, and number two, you have not yet decided what your aim is, then you're vulnerable. Anyone can suggest you anything, and okay, maybe I'll try this one, and you'll try it. But the harmful effect is that I would say that the disadvantage is that since you're not sure, and there are thousands of brands, so today is something else, maybe 1 week later, something else will come. So in that way, you'll just keep bouncing from one thing to another without any fulfillment. And the whole thing in this part two, the option that I'm mentioning right now, which I've titled it as a willing participant in a global capitalist system. It's like your whole objective of life is to earn as much money as possible to compete against your peers at work or your neighbors to see who has the best gadgets or the best things. So that's how you try to spend your life and find your self-worth. That's the option two. The third is to bring back the old traditions, to artificially bring back the old traditions. So some people who for whom the burden of freedom is too much, and they try to go back. And to an extent, we are definitely seeing that people who are too into nationalism, as you can see in many countries, it's happening in India, in the US, and so on. So what this is people who cannot take the burden of freedom. So they want something to hold them back. And instead of doing all the work on defining their own purpose, they are going back in time and finding whatever existed and taking it. But the important distinction here is that unlike the people of the old times, who to an extent very seriously believe those systems, whether it's religion or nationalism, who are genuinely who believed it. The people who accept it, it's not that they actually believe in God. It's just that it provides them a structure in their lives. That's their main option. That's the main thing. be it God or be it your national being patriotic about your country. It's not about genuine patriotism or genuine belief in God. It's just that, okay, it provides some structure and predefined set of structure. And that's, I'd say, pseudo-religious or pseudo-nationalistic people. Those are the three. And the fourth one, which is supposed to be the most realistic one. I mean, it's the most practically viable one and the real use of what this freedom gives us. And this is about finding someone and struggling with it. So so basically what he's trying to say is that find something that you really are want to pursue it. And it is going to be something that you are never really going to complete it within your lifetime. But you will nevertheless you are going to do it. And the main thing is that it's not the result of that work that is going to uh, give you that fulfillment, but rather it's the work itself that's going to give you the fulfillment. Like, for example, if you are a singer or a writer, so it's not about writing the book and getting famous or singing a song and becoming popular. The act of composing music or creating a story, that itself is uh, provides the fulfillment. Or it could be anything else. Like, for example, it could be like phy- physical optimization as well. Like, for example, if you are someone's doing weightlifting or running a marathon, those kind of things. Like the act of doing it is that you are challenging yourself, pushing your limits, and that itself is fulfilling enough, not the end result of itself. So that's this very short way of saying it, that doing something where the work itself is fulfilling enough rather than the end result. So those are the four options that exist. These are the four ways in which people are coping with the absence of grand narratives in today's world. So that was the summary of this video. So before I continue some with additional points, do you have anything to say here?
Uh, okay, let me think. Actually, there used to be a grand narrative which got replaced by this postmodernism.
Yes.
What exactly led to this replacement? Like, why did this grand narrative go away with postmodernism?
Uh, I'm not, I haven't looked into that question directly, but if I have to guess, I would say that the rigid structure of it might have led people to question it. And over time, people tried to revolt against it, come up with their own ways. And that, I think that's led to the decline or replacement of some objective narratives with something which is subjective in nature.
Also, then would you not cycle for every human being where at their younger ages they will be more attracted towards shallow ideas for finding purpose of their life, or the main will be shallow ideas, and as they grow older they will realize the maybe the shallowness of what they found meaningful, and then towards the later years of their life will gravitate towards a grander narrative, whether it be religion or some nationalism, something beyond themselves. Is modern world that is causing this, or do you think that every human that has a similar pattern?
Okay, just 1 minute. Because of the internet, maybe it is hanging a bit. Change it. Uh, I think it depends on what kind of society they are born on. Like, if you are, if someone was born 100 years ago, were they more vulnerable to some like alternate options? I'm not sure. Like for example, in okay, what you have said might be true for our era, like when we were young, or like people who are young now, because we are, as you said, we exist in the postmodern era, and due to access to different mediums, we have access to different worldviews from a very early age. So it might be that people of our age are uh, more so like they have more like options to explore those things. But as you said, like people who get older, then they believe in more grand narratives. I think that is true for most people. Like this freedom, like as you have said, as it said, like the weight of freedom is too much. Like now that I'm old enough and I've seen people of my age have also grown into adults, so they were very like people like my friends, I would say. I have noticed them, my classmates rather. Like they were people who they were very rebellious at the young age. Like I was like when I was young, I also had rebellious, but I wasn't externally rebellious. Like okay, whatever teacher told, I wasn't like too much with them. But now that look at them, they are a lot of them are married, they have kids, and they're into religion for some reason. Or some of them are also into national, like very patriotic and so on. So, like, what happened to their rebellious nature? So, I think you are right in some sense that once you get later into their lives, they get uh, more attracted to grand narratives instead of being rebellious.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Again, I guess before the postmodern world, suppose I think you already mentioned there was limited availability of information. Someone born into a particular culture already knew that culture.
yes,
In the postmodern world, you have access to the entire world's culture if you want to look at it, and maybe that confuses people initially. But I think through trial and error over a period of time, maybe people find their own narrative at some point,
yes,
or there is a possibility some people do remain confused longer. But
yeah.
yeah,
So, so one thing to notice is that uh, we are the same people. For example, like the important thing to note is that even though there were grand narratives thousands of years ago, like a religion was there, and today it's postmodernism. But physically, we are not two different species. Like we are the same people with the same brain capacity and so on. So it's not that they were biologically incapable of doing it. It was just that they existed in a different time. Maybe if I existed then back 1,000 years ago, I would have been different. And if someone from 1,000 years ago existed today, they would have been different. So the hardware is the same thing, but the conditions make them those kind of things. So that's, I think, one thing to keep in mind. And uh, yes, another thing is that okay, I think I have mentioned this, like the weight of freedom is it's not easy to, like people want freedom, but they don't know, like most people won't know what to do if they have freedoms. That's the weight that takes on. And I think that is also something like sometimes villains in movies or even in real life, they use it to justify certain actions. Like they say, okay, like why are you doing surveillance? What's the purpose of it? Like those kind of things. And the justification is, what do you think? You think people are smart? People can defend themselves? No. People are that I think in the Dark Knight movie, Joker said it like the people that you see, the civilized people, like at the first sign of trouble, they will turn into animals because this civilized world is kept civilized due to all those rules and norms that is keeping them in check. So if those things are removed, the animal nature within people will take over their civilized front they are keeping. So for most of human history, religion and nationalism kept them in check. But now that we are free, do we have the self-discipline to keep our animal nature in check? So that's the thing. Or and that's why like so yeah, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, but that's what I'm saying. Like just because you give people freedom, do people have the self-discipline to make the most out of it? Most people don't. I think that's why all those confusion is being created.
Mm.
But that being said, when I was looking at the fourth option, I think like intuitively that's what I always wanted to do with my life. Like for me, it was never grand narratives. Like as like so when I was first listening to the video of the podcast and when you started mentioning option four, it automatically clicked to me. That's what that's what I always wanted to do. Like to understand. Like for me, the thing that gives me that thing is that to understand the purpose or like understand why the world works the way that it works. That's why I named it decoding the everything. So basically it's about so broadly I do two things like one is the natural world like physics and uh consciousness and those kind of things broadly. So that's why I have to mention this. This is decoding the everything one where I mostly look into the mysteries and the workings of the social world, how people and humans behave. And the second one is decoding the everything two is about the natural world. So that's for a long time, like for all my life, that's what I wanted to like pursue with my career or my life. Not even I don't even think about this as career. It's like it's about what it's something I want to do or I do, and maybe if I can make money out of it, that's fine. There's nothing else. Like there's no like people think, "Oh, okay, I'm going to study in this institute and I'm going to get this PhD or I'm going to get a Nobel Prize or like I'm to publish this amount of papers in like if like those are the kind of metrics that they are like there are some people for whom those matter. Like for me, it's not about those kind of metrics. It's about not about which if you're studying in Harvard or Princeton, but are you exploring the topics that you are interested in? Are you finding the answers that you're curious about? It's not about publishing like 1,000 papers per research papers, but is it about are you asking the right questions? Have you found the answers that you're looking for in the research papers that you published? Or is it just a matter of so this is the distinction that the option two that I mentioned, participating in the global capitalist system, where it's like let's see who has the biggest house or who is more prestigious in society. So you published 50 papers this week, research papers this year. I'll publish 100. So I'm better than you. So that is how you're getting self-worth. Instead of like, did you find the answers that you're looking for in that topic, in the area of research that you're researching? If not, then what's the point of publishing research paper, 100 research papers? So that's the difference between pursuing the same thing but from a different perspective. From option two, which is like competition, and option four is the task itself. So anything do you want to say here?
Mm. Not really, but I find that the fourth option is somewhat similar to like one of the let's say one of the concepts discussed in Hindu philosophy as well of like I think dharma or karma, I'm not sure.
Yes,
Basically,
yes,
you focus on your work, not the result.
yes. So, which leads me to think like certain truths are universal. So, it doesn't matter which people at which era thinks of it, they'll finally reach at the same conclusion. It's like maths, like one plus one is two, whoever at whichever point in time. People a million years from now, if they add one plus one, it will be two. So it's like kind of a universal truth. And that's why certain things sound similar, like exactly the same. Right. Okay, so there are 10 minutes left. So basically, what I wanted to cover, additional things that I didn't cover in that video was looking at from a business perspective. Like the point of business is to capitalize on people's needs and wants. So this is an idea that I arrived on later on. Like I thought that okay, there are four options. Each of them has certain needs. So how are businesses capitalizing on them? So this is not about I'm not going to check whether they're ethically doing the right thing or not, but they are just I know that they're capitalizing on those kind of phenomena. So the door number one, as I've said, is about uh, burnout. Like they have decided to numb. They have given up on and life, and they're just want to numb themselves down. So any services that are catering to this, like any short form media and so on. So those are the categories of businesses that are definitely making the most out of this phenomenon. Like, okay, people are depressed, they are choosing to numb themselves down. Okay, let's do it. Let's give them short form, which reminded me of there's a rise in something called micro drama. Have you heard of it?
Not sure. Is it like drama in reels, like entire
Yes,
stories you have to scroll through like that?
yes, it's something like that. And it came to my notice, like I think I might have heard it maybe a few months ago, maybe a year ago. But since I use the Hotstar app, now they have also created an additional tab for micro dramas. So they have an entire category of those things. So as I was scrolling through them, I thought that okay, it's not like a niche category anymore. Hotstar, like it's so I think so. It's even probably bigger than Netflix in India in terms of I'm not sure, maybe a bigger or almost equal to Netflix in terms of market share in India. So if they are introducing this feature in their app, that means it's really becoming mainstream. So yes, companies are capitalizing on this mindset. Again, this is my way of looking at how businesses are capitalizing on different kind of things. So then comes option two, which is like full participation in the capitalist structure. So this is all about productivity and hustle culture that most people look at, like all the like entrepreneurs and all everything, like the whole philosophy of like I'll rest when I die, I'll sleep when I die, like as long as I'm alive, I'll just keep working and no regards to anything else. And like it's all about self-optimization, not for the sake of self-optimization, but for the sake of numbers. So that's why things like all the kind of self-monitoring devices. I'm not saying those are bad. Like those things can also be used in option four. Like okay, if you genuinely want to take care of health, okay. But then you are also trying to compete. Like okay, like this okay in some apps there are like this kind of social media feature within that as well. Like I use Editor's running app. So what they have is that you can also compare how much you have run as compared to other people. Now that creates a kind of competition. Like, okay, like for example, suppose I'm sick and tired, like I don't want to run today, but then I see, wait, someone else is running more than me. How can it be? I need to catch up, I need to outcompete him. So it's creating a competition out of it. And again, people who are in option two, they're all about optimization, who are all about outdoing your someone else, trying to just be higher up. So these kind of people are like this kind of businesses are optimizing for those. Luxury brands are another categories of things. Again, luxury brands in and of itself are a very interesting category of businesses because even in economics, in basic economics, we studied like it's not the product itself. Like in terms of quality, they are nothing superior. Like they are a bit superior, but not as much as the price says. It's all about the perception that they create about your social standing. So that's how they create. They're capitalizing on the category of people who are completely into this competitive capitalist uh, race. Then the three is return to tradition. This is also very simple. Like since we have 4 minutes now, I'm going to fasten this. So this is also like you might have seen all those kind of gurus and everything, like the modern gurus. Some of them are somewhat they resemble the ancient gurus, like they wear orange robes and those kind of things, like the Indian kind of things. And yes, but there are also other like self-help gurus who are like I would say like people like Tony Robbins and those kind of things. I again I'm not entirely against those things, but again, but certain people get too much into those kind of things, and some uh, certain kind of communities inevitably turn into cults. So that's the risk of those kind of things. So, and again, unlike the old traditions, these are corporate, like these are businesses. Like it's not like these gurus are actually poor people. It's not like they do not own anything like the actual gurus of the past. These are business people. They are probably multimillionaires and billionaires. So how can you be a religious guru if you are a billionaire? So I think you shouldn't be having wealth, like material wealth, if you want to be a guru. So you're just faking it. So that's the point. You just try to make money of people's vulnerabilities. And then comes the fourth one. And this is the least one to capitalize because the whole point of this fourth one is to find something genuine and to enjoy. So this is the less monetizable, but still they are businesses. And mostly the businesses are mostly genuine, I would say. Obviously, they have their own intention of making money, but it's hard to capitalize. The businesses would be something like uh, any any website that teaches you skills. Like I think one or two that comes to my mind are like Masterclass. That's a website. Because like I think it came about 6 to 7 years ago, and they started this whole term of masterclass. Like now every time any video you see, any short video about something, okay, a quick masterclass on any topic. I think this company is the one who popularized this term. Let me see if I can come up with this. This is the brand. So the whole point about this brand is about learning different skills. And the difference between this is that it's not like you're learning a skill to get a job or something. It's like you're learning a life skill. You're learning how to write, you're learning how to code, you're learning how to do a craft or so, those kind of things. Just for the sake of learning it. You're not doing it to get a job or do anything. So that is one kind of categories of businesses that are like capitalizing on this kind of trends. So that was it. That's the broadly that's what I wanted to cover. So less than a minute, anytime it can end now.
Okay.